So, as of now, we've learned of two 3D shapes and how to find their volume. What are those two 3D shapes called? Prism and pyramid. All right, so let's talk about the top shape. Is it a prism or a pyramid? It is a pyramid. What is the shape of the base of this pyramid?
Right triangle.
It is a right triangle. Good. Because the bottom is a right triangle, the top is also a right triangle pyramid. So what is the volume formula for any pyramid?
1/3 the area of the base.
1/3 area of the base times the height. So we're going to find the area of the base, and we already said the shape of the base is a triangle, so we want to find the area of this triangle. What is the area formula for a triangle? 1/2 base times height. So this is a right triangle. You need to make sure that the hypotenuse is never the base of the height. Hypotenuse is nothing. So are we given the base and the height?
12 and 9.
Correct, yeah. So 12 and 9. Because it's congruent with the bottom, this one's also 12 centimeters, and this one's also 9 centimeters. So 12 times 9. So half of 12 is 6 times 9 is 54. So the area of the base is 54. So I'm going to plug it in. 1/3 area of the base 54 times the height of the pyramid only. What is the height of the pyramid? It is 7. You can do this a couple ways. You can keep the 1/3. What is 54 times 7?
It is 378.
378. And then divide it by 3 or multiply it times a third. That's the same thing. It is 126. So that is the volume of the top. All we do now is find the volume of the bottom. So I'm going to draw a line. The bottom, is it a prism or a pyramid? It is a prism. What kind of prism? Yeah, it's still a right triangular prism. The two bases are triangles. So what is the volume formula for any prism?
The area of the base times the height.
Area of the base times the height. What is the area of the base?
54.
It's still 54. Still has 12 and 9 as the side lengths, so 54. And then times the height of the prism only.
10.
It is 10. So times the height, which is 10, which is 540. So at this point, you found the volume of the top and the volume of the bottom. Were these two added onto each other or subtracted from one to the other? They're added. So we're going to add them. So 126 plus 540, and we get, oh, that's a bummer, 666 centimeters. It is volume, so it is cubed. It's a rough way to start a lesson, but it'll be okay. It'll buff. All right, so we're going to talk about cones. So where do you see cones in life? You got traffic cones. Thank you, a party hat, and then the most famous one.
Ice cream.
Ice cream cone, or a snow cone, athletic cones. You get it. We're going to first talk about surface area. Surface area of any shape, what you do. Let me give you a shape that you know. This is a triangular prism, right? Surface area, you would find the area of all of the pieces. So this is a triangle, a triangle. These appear to be squares. You'd find the area of each. How do you find the area of a square? Side squared. So you'd find each of these, and then you would find the area of the triangles, which are 1/2 base times height, and then you'd add all the areas together, right? You've done this in 8th grade, so we don't do the easy stuff. We do the harder stuff, which would be cones. They look a little different because anytime you have a curved edge, what are we always going to see in a formula?
Circles.
Yes, when it has a curved edge, you're always going to see what in the formula? You're going to see pi in the formula. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to show you a cone. You see it in the middle of the page. You're not going to label everything that's going to pop up. I'm going to tell you what parts are important. You do want 2 highlighters if you have them, just to decipher the 2 parts that are the most important of the cone. So the first thing I want you to mark is the vertex. The vertex is the point at the top, just the same as a pyramid has a vertex. So you don't have to highlight this one. I'll tell you that you're going to highlight the heights, and I'll show you that in a second. So you got your vertex. We already know about a radius. You don't have to label any of the other things. Not yet. So you have vertex, you know R for radius. Then you're going to label the height first, and then highlight it. So this height is the height we've been talking about all along. It's from the bottom to the top of an object. We will use this for volume only. So if you want to mark that, we use the regular height for volume. The regular height we use for volume. And then what we call the slant height is the slant. You could either highlight this side or this side. They're both the slant height. But either way, the slant height we use for surface area. Those are the only things you need on our cone. This is called a right cone. Can someone figure out why it's called a right cone?
It makes a right angle.
It makes a right angle with the ground. Another way to look at it, you see right cones in life most of the time. The vertex is right over the radius, okay, perfectly above it. All cones that are functional are right cones. But sometimes in this section you'll have non-right cones, which will just appear to be slanted. And you'll see that in a second. So we're going to talk about the surface area of a cone. This is just going to show you what it looks like when you lay it out, but I've already shown you that. So to find surface area, you find the area of both parts and you add them. How do you find the area of the circle? Pi r squared, so that's the first part. We'll talk about the full formula. You're going to find pi r squared, and then for this bottom portion, you're going to use pi, the radius, and the slant height. And so the formula looks like this. You want to put that in the big blank in the middle of the page. So pi r squared, which represents the circle portion of the cone, and then in order to do the elongator portion, you use pi rl. So again, pi r squared is for the circle part, pi rl is for the surface area of this part. So r stands for the radius, L will stand for the slant height. I would mark that if you haven't already. L stands for the slant height. And then we're going to use it. So the first two examples, find the surface area of the right cone. We have pi r squared plus pi rl. So in this question, we got pi. What is the radius?
3.
It is 3. The radius is 3. So we plug in 3 squared plus pi times the radius, which is still 3, and then times L, which we said stands for slant height. Which of these is the slant height? 5. Honestly, if you have a scientific calculator, you can just plug it all in, but it looks like most of you don't, which is fine. I'll teach you a trick. 3 squared is 9. So this is 9 pi. Don't type it in your calculator yet. I'm going to try to make your life easier. 3 times 5 is, so this is 15 pi. You can add them since they both have pi. So 9 pi plus 15 pi is 24 pi, and then just multiply it. So 24 times 2.14. It just saves you from typing it a bunch of times.
75.36.
Correct. 75.36. And it is centimeters. Now look, we found surface area. So is it centimeters, centimeters squared, centimeters cubed?
It is centimeters squared.
Squared. Correct. What kind of cone was this top cone? It is a right cone. It says in the directions, but also the sides are 3, 4, and 5. That's the most famous Pythagorean triple, if you remember. So the bottom it says a right cone, and we don't have a picture. So you can draw one. You draw a circle and a center of the circle. Draw a line going directly up and over to signify your radius and the height, and then just connect to the edges. So in a right cone, the height will always be up and down. The radius will always go, left and right. The slant height will always be the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is slanted. So it just makes sense. So a right cone has a diameter of 1.8 inches. So a diameter goes all the way across the circle. It is 1.8. And it has a height of 3 inches. Is this the slant height? It is not. It's just the regular height. It is 3. So we know this is a right triangle. So how could I find my slant height knowing that this is a right triangle? Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared first. Am I missing a, b, or c? C. You can put c, you can put s for slant height. Technically it's an L in the formula, however you want to do it. But we're going to use 3, and what other number?
0.9.
How'd you find 0.9?
Divided by 2.
Correct. The diameter is 1.8, but the radius is half the diameter. So you do 1.8 divided by 2, and you get the radius, which is 0.9. All right, so 3 squared is 9. 0.9 squared is 0.81 equals c squared. So we get 9.81 equals c squared. So then how do I figure out what the slant height is? 6 square root. And this missing side is 3.13. Alright, so this is not the final answer, but it will help me find it. I'm now going to use the surface area formula because I have everything I need. We got pi. What is the radius? 0.9 squared plus pi times the radius, which is still 0.9, times the slant height, which is 3.13. Either way you're doing this, you're going to end up multiplying a lot. But this is 0.81 pi, because squared is 0.81, plus, what is 0.9 times 3.13? It's going to be a lot of decimals. 2.817. You can add them together. Is it 3.627? And then times pi. So we added these two numbers together and then put pi. And now we multiply, we get 11.39, and this is surface area, where is it? Inches squared. So that is surface area. Go ahead and take out your whiteboard marker. You're going to find the surface area of this cone. correct? Correct. Do I need to do the Pythagorean theorem?
No.
No. Surface area equals pi r squared plus pi rl. What is the radius? 8. And then the slant height is 16. You do end up with 602.88 inches squared. All right, this next one. Correct. Yes, sir. You can round to the hundredths since pi is rounded to the hundredths. Correct. Yep. Yep. Good. So surface area is pi r squared plus pi rl. Are we given the radius? No, but we need to find it. How do I find the radius? Divide by 2. It'd be 5.5. So 5.5 squared plus pi times 5.5 times 7.2. And you do end up with 219.33. And it is centimeters squared. So I'll start it on the board. Surface area equals pi r squared plus pi rl. So surface area is 75.4. My radius is 3. Here's where a lot of people are going wrong. So go ahead and pause and look at this. If this was a number and it equaled another number plus another number times x, would you be able to combine these?
No.
So can you combine these?
No.
No. Because L is a letter, right? And pi is a number and 3 is a number. I know it looks more complicated, but you can't combine these. You gotta drag it down. So 75.4 equals 3 squared is 9. 9 times pi is correct. Plus, what is 3 times pi?
9.42.
9.42. And then still L. So what is the appropriate thing to do next to solve for L? Subtract the 28.26. Which gives me what? What is it? 47.14. Divided by 9.42. Correct. So the length is 5. 5 and it's centimeters. Technically from here, you don't even need to do math. If you know the slant height is 5, this is a right triangle. What is the most common Pythagorean triple? 3, 4, 5. So technically h is 4 centimeters. But if you did not know that off the bat, you can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Which of these would be c? 5. So if you didn't know 4, you would do a squared plus 3 squared equals 5 squared. And you would eventually come to 4. Okay, we're going to go back to our notes and talk about volume. So a volume, in volume, a cone looks like what shape? A pyramid. So it has the same formula as a pyramid. It's not technically a pyramid, but it has the same formula as a pyramid. Yes, we are on page 2. So the volume formula, you can write one or the other. The formula you would see on a reference sheet is 1/3 area of the base times the height. Instead of writing area of the base, you can always plug in the area formula, which is pi r squared. Either way would be correct. So it's 1/3 area of the base times the height, or you can plug in pi r squared for the area of the base. 1/3 pi r squared each. So realistically, this shouldn't be a new formula for you. The surface area was definitely new. But this one's old news. We're going to find the volume. Is this a right cone? No. The vertex is not above the center. There's no right angle. This is what a slanted cone looks like. But we find the volume the same. Volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height. The shape of the base is a circle. So again, you can either plug in pi r squared and just do it all at the same time, or you can go off to the side. Area equals pi r squared. The radius is 2.2, and then squared. So what do we get for our area? 4.84. Total? That includes pi? I was about to say. And then times pi, it's 15 what? 0.2. Okay, and then times the height of the pyramid, and the height of this pyramid is 4.5. I'm going to drop down the 1/3 and multiply 15.2 times 4.5. What does that make? 60 what? 68.4. And then multiply times 1/3 or divide it by 3. It's the same thing. What are the numbers? 22.79. What? 796. Yeah. So this 6 would make the 9 round up, which would in turn make the 7 round up. So it is an 8. 22.8, and it is centimeters. This is volume, so it is cubed. So that's that. We just practice the same way we practiced before. We're going to find the volume of this cone. So volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height. Find the area of the base. We're going to do pi r squared. What is the radius in this cone? 3. So pi times 3 squared. 3 squared is 9. 9 times pi is 28.26. Times the height. Which of these numbers represents the height of the cone? 4. So height is 4. So I'm going to drop down the 1/3. What is 28.26 times 4? 103.04. And then divide by 3. Or multiply times 1/3. 113. Okay. So 113.04. And then divide by 3 or multiply times 1/3, same thing. What do we get? 37.68. And it is centimeters cubed. This question, a right cone has a radius of 5 feet and a slant height of 13 feet. So again, it's a right cone, so you've got a circle, a center. The vertex is directly above the center, forms a right angle. But if you remember, we're given the radius, which is 5. You technically don't have to draw this if you remember this next fact. where is the slant height always going to be? The hypotenuse. So as long as you know the slant height is always the hypotenuse, you would know we are missing the actual height, which is what we need for volume. Volume is 1/3 area of the base times the actual height. So we don't have what we need. So what can I do to find the length of the height here? Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So which of these is c? 13. And 5 is b. I put h. You could put a. It doesn't matter. What's 5 squared? 25. 13 squared is 169. Subtract 25. Correct. H squared would equal 144. And then take the square root, and h equals 12. All right, so we found the height. We need to find the area of the base. So the area of the base, we would use pi r squared. So the radius is 5. 5 squared is 25. What is 25 times 3.14? 78.5. So now I have 1/3 times the area of the base, which is 78.5. And then times the height, which we said was 12. Personally, I would do 1/3 of 12, which is 4, and then times 78.5. But you don't have to do that. Either way we do it, what do we get as our final volume? 314, and it is feet cubed. Everything from here should be pretty familiar. We have a composite solid. So it's made up of 2 shapes. What is the top shape called? It's a cone. Oops, sorry. So the top one is a cone. What does a cone have the same formula as? A pyramid. So volume equals 1/3. Yeah, area of the base times the height. So the shape of the base is a circle. So we want to find the area of the circle using pi r squared. What is the radius of the circle? 6. Pi times 6 squared. So pi times 36, what do we get as the area of our base? It's what? 115? 113.04. And then times the height of the cone only. 4. So again, it doesn't really matter what order you multiply in. You could do 113 times 113.04 times 4, which is 150.72.
Oh, are you still taking the 1/3? I just included that. So.
I haven't done that yet.
It's 452.
Okay, thank you. 452. Oop. 452.16. And then divide that by 3. And then, yeah, we get 150.72. But that is not the total volume. It is just the volume of the top. We still have to find the volume of the bottom. What shape is on the bottom? It's a cylinder, which can use the prism formula. So volume equals, what is the volume formula for a cylinder? Yeah, area of the base times the height. This should be pretty simple because it has the same base, right? It's still a circle with a radius of 6. So what's the area of the base? 113.04. And then the height of the prism, the height of the cylinder, 5. So what is 113 times 5? 565.2. So then we need to find the composite volume. So the top portion is 150.72. The bottom portion is 565.2. So what do we do with these two numbers? We're going to add them. Add them together, and what is our final answer? 715.92. And it is meters cubed. All right, and then this is the last one we'll do for today. Cone A and cone B are similar. Find the volume of cone B. So if they're similar, what do I know about their sides? They are proportional. So take the sides, make them proportional to the volume, but I can't leave it like this, or they're not yet proportional. What do I have to do? Cube the sides. So what is a length from the first shape? 3. And a length from the second? 9. And it equals the volume from the first? 15 pi. And the volume from the second, we don't know. We don't know it. When you cube, it is easiest if you reduce. What is 3 over 9 reduced to? 1/3. A lot of people, bless you, have been reducing and then not cubing. What is 1 cubed? 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And then 3 cubed would be 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Still equals 15 pi over v. Cross multiply, you get v equals 405 pi. And then it is, yep, feet cubed. Ooh, not this. All right, sorry. So the last two. A right cone has a surface area of 440 square inches and a radius of 7 inches. Find its slant height. So this is similar to what you did on your whiteboard a few minutes ago. We're going to take the surface area and the formula and solve for the slant height. So what is the surface area formula? Good. So pi r squared plus pi rl. So what is, we'll start with the surface area. What is the surface area? 440 equals, then we have pi times the radius, which is 7, plus pi times the radius, which is 7 again, and then times L, we don't know it. So 7 squared is 49. What is 49 times pi? 153.86. Okay. And then plus 7 times pi is 21.98. And then it's still L. So like we said, can we combine a number and a letter? We cannot. So what is my next step? Subtract the 153.86. Hold on, 153.86. Now tell me. 286.14 equals 21.98 L. So then my last step here, divide by 21.98. So then the length is what? 13.02, and it is inches. Well, it's just inches. Yeah. Because it's a slant height. You can flip to the back, and we'll do the last one. A right cone has a volume of 528 cubic meters and a diameter of 12 meters. Find its height. So remember that when we're dealing with volume questions, instead of putting area of the base, you can plug in pi r squared. In this case, we could find the area of the base pretty easily. What here is helpful to find the area of the base?
The diameter.
The diameter. So you can either plug in pi r squared and then just go from there. We could find the area of the base. What is the radius if the diameter is 12? 6. And then 6 squared is 36. So that means the area of the base is 113.04. So from here we can just plug in. The volume is 528. And it equals 1/3 times the area of the base. And then times the height. So what would be our next step?
Divide 113.
Good. By 3.
Do you want the answer?
Yes, go for it.
37.68.
37.68, and then still h. So then how do I get h by itself? Divide by 37.68.
14.01.
So the height is 14.01, and it is meters.